What's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today doing some Dupe Scoop Lightsworn test hands. So I'm really excited to see you guys because this deck is a really amazing deck with just how many cards you can mill into the graveyard with the amazing combo of Card Trooper plus Machine Duplication, while also being able to mill cards to the graveyard off your Lightsworn effects. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards like your name description every single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your patron, along with test hands. And definitely give Garland some love down in the comments down below for suggesting such an awesome deck. So let's get straight on into this one, guys. So for the first test hand, I'm actually going to go ahead and add Card Trooper and Machine Duplication directly to my hand to show you how powerful this combo actually is, which is just absolutely insane what you can do with just those two cards in your hand. The other three cards in my hand are not going to matter as long as they're not another copy of Card Trooper. You're going to be able to pull off some really insane effects because you can get a mill 12 just off of these two cards, which is absolutely insane. Just how powerful those two cards are when they're combined together. But you guys know it's dad rule number one that we got to pile shuffle the deck, because if you don't pile shuffle the deck, you run the risk of bricking. So once we get the deck pile shuffle, we're going to go ahead and do some test hands. But this deck is really insane because being able to mill cards to the graveyard like your copies of Wolf and Felice, and even copies of Judgment Dragon, because I have a really awesome tech card in here that if you do mill out your copies of Judgment Dragon, we have a really easy way to get them back out of the graveyard. So now that we got the deck pile shuffle, let's go ahead and see what we can do for our first test hands. We're going to draw into a copy of Solar Recharge, a copy of Raikou, and a copy of Foolish Burial. Now, usually I would go ahead and activate the Foolish Burial, but like I said, the other three cards do not matter in this particular hand. So we're going to go ahead and normal summon out the copy of Card Trooper and activate the copy of Machine Duplication to bring out to our side of the field our copies of our Card Troopers, which is really amazing to be able to bring out those two copies, because you're going to get a mill 12 off those effects, which you might be wondering, how are you going to get a mill 12 if you only have 3 copies of Card Trooper on your side of the field? Well, there's actually a card in my extract called Dante that actually gives us an additional mill 3 because all of these are level 3, which is really cool. So we're going to go ahead and use the copy of Card Trooper after we give the deck a quick little shuffle. We're going to go ahead and see what we can mill out of the deck. So we're going to go ahead and mill a copy of our Black Dragon, a copy of the White Dragon, and a copy of Judgment Dragon, which is totally fine because we have ways to get the copy of Judgment Dragon back out of the graveyard for our first Card Trooper. For our next Card Trooper, we're going to go ahead and mill out a copy of Wolf, Raiden, and a copy of Destrudo, which we're actually going to get a special summon out the copy of Wolf. And finally, for the last Card Trooper, we're going to go ahead and mill a copy of 2 copies of Machine Duplication and a copy of Raiden. So that's totally fine because we now can overlay 2 of our Card Troopers on our side of the field, or we can go ahead and activate our copy of Foolish Burial to be able to get a copy of Malicious in the graveyard and then use its effect to be able to banish itself to get another copy of Malicious on the field, which is going to help us out a little bit to be able to get that card out on our side of the field for additional plays later. So we're going to go ahead and shuffle up the deck, and once we shuffle up the deck, we're going to go ahead and overlay both of these on our side of the field. Now, the really neat thing about this setup is you do have 4 monsters with different names on your side of the field now to be able to go in for a copy of Yugioh if you want to go in for a copy of Yugioh after you use the copy of Dante. So we're going to go ahead and use the copy of Dante to be able to mill the top 3 cards of the deck, which is a copy of Starliege, Charge the Light Brigade, and a Lila, which is totally fine because we actually have a really neat effect with our copy of our Starliege, because this card has the ability that if this card's in the graveyard, you can banish this card from the grave and then target a level 8 light or dark dragon monster in the grave and add that card back to your hand, which our copy of Judgment Dragon is. So you can just immediately banish that card to grab our copy of Judgment Dragon and add it to our hand, which is really helpful for this particular setup. So at this point, what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to actually go 2 different ways. We can go ahead and use the copy of Charge the Light Brigade plus Solar Recharge, which is the 2 additional cards that we drew on top of our Card Trooper Machine Duplication, or we can actually go in for a copy of our Yugioh, which is another play that we can go in for, which is really helpful to be able to dig into the deck. So let's go ahead and use the effect and go into our copy of Yugioh using all of these cards on our side of the field, which is going to be really helpful to be able to go in for that card because we can get an additional special summon, we can get a draw 4 and reset our deck, which is really, really nice. So we're going to go ahead and look at the top 4 of our deck and draw those cards and then put 3 back, which we're going to go ahead and draw into a copy of Felice, Solar Recharge, Lumina, and a copy of Snow, which is going to help us out a lot to be able to use these cards. So I'm actually going to put back the copy of Snow and the copy of Felice and maybe the copy of the Solar Recharge, but I'm actually going to put them back in this particular order so that we can go ahead and keep the copy of our Lumina, because we can use the copy of Lumina later on, or you can actually keep the copy of, say, the Fairy Tale Snow if you want to discard that card to the graveyard to give you an additional monster on the field. I'm actually going to keep that, and I'm going to put back the copy of the Raikou. Raikou is going to be the least useful in this particular hand, so we're going to go ahead and use these particular cards. So we're going to go ahead and special summon out the copy of Lumina, which will gain 300 attack points. Use the effect of the Lumina to be able to discard to the graveyard our copy of our Fairy Tale Snow. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and bring back to our side of the field a copy of, where is it? Our copy of Raiden that we milled out earlier. So we're going to go ahead and bring back the copy of Raiden to our side of the field, which is going to help us out a lot. But at this point, you can use the copy of Fairy Tale Snow to banish a whole bunch of cards, a total of 7, from the graveyard to be able to bring it back to our side of the field, which I'm actually going to go ahead and use that effect of Fairy Tale Snow to be able to banish a copy of Malicious. And we're not going to need our copies of Card Trooper anymore, so we're going to go ahead and banish our Card Troopers from the graveyard, which is 4, and then 3 spell cards from the graveyard to be able to bring that card out to the field, which is really helpful just to get our copy of Fairy Tale Snow out on our side of the field so we can go ahead and synchro summon into a copy of our Chaos Ruler, which is super helpful to get this card out on the side of the field because it has a really neat effect to be able to look at the top 5 of our deck. And once we do look at the top 5 of our deck, we're going to be able to add one of the lighter dark monsters from our deck to our hand, which I'm going to go ahead and add the copy of the Judgment Dragon among those cards to be able to then get an additional Judgment Dragon in the hand, which is going to be super helpful because now at this point I can special summon out the copy of Wolf, and these are going to go to the graveyard because all of these would go directly from the deck to the grave, and the copy of Wolf would special summon itself to the field, which is really, really helpful. Now at this point I do have the copy of the Fairy Tale Snow that we can actually use again, which is really cool because during either player's turn, if this card's in the graveyard, you can banish 7 cards from your hand, field, and or graveyard and special summon this card, and it is not a once per turn, which is why this card was originally put to 0, but we have plenty of cards to be able to banish. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and count the names that I have in the graveyard and make sure that I keep 4 names in the graveyard, but other than that, anything can get banished from the graveyard except for cards like Destrudo. So it's very important just to make sure that you have all the names that you need to be able to summon out your copies of Judgment Dragon. So we're going to go ahead and banish these 4 right here, 5, 6, and basically 7 right there, and special summon out Fairy Tale Snow again to our side of the field, and these 4 were already in the graveyard to be able to set up for our copy of Judgment Dragon. So at this point I'm going to go ahead and overlay both of these and make a copy of Minerva to be able to then detach the copy of Fairy Tale Snow, because this card just requires any 2 level 4 monsters to be able to send the top 3 cards of our deck to the graveyard, and then depending on the amount of Lightsworns that we send, we'll actually get to draw a card, which we're going to send a copy of Wolf, Plague Spreader, and a copy of Trick Clown, which is really good because both of these monsters will actually special summon them to the field. And then we also send a copy of a Lightsworn, giving us a draw of a copy of a Minerva, which is kind of funny because we actually used Minerva. So we're going to go ahead and use this right here in our hand to be able to use to go for a Solar Recharge with a copy of Minerva to be able to draw 2 and then send the top 2 from our deck to the graveyard, which we're going to draw 2 and then we're going to send 2 to the graveyard, which is totally fine because now we have even more cards in the graveyard for Fairy Tale Snow, which is exactly what we need, which is really, really nice. We can go ahead and link summon into some really powerful monsters if you want to go ahead and link summon into cards like Apollosa, because it'll give you additional plays, and when you make it under your copy of Yugioh, it'll actually come out at 53, which is, or not 53, but 35, which is really cool to be able to make on your side of the field. Or you can go in for cards like Boral Sword if you're trying to OTK, or even your copies of Curious, which is kind of cool to be able to make your copy of Curious on your side of the field. Totally up to you what you want to make with this particular field, but we're being able to just show you guys how much we can actually dig into the deck with this particular combo. So I'm going to go ahead and make a copy of our Curious on our side of the field, because we're using a fairy, a spellcaster, and a beast warrior to be able to go in for our copy of Curious, which is really cool just to be able to make that card, because it's super good to be able to get an additional card out of the deck, because as the ability, if this card on the field, or if this face-up card on the field is destroyed by battle and leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect while in its owner's control, then you can target a card in the graveyard and add it back to your hand. You can only use the effect of this card once per turn. That if this card is link summoned, you can send a card from your deck to the graveyard, and if this card is sent to the graveyard, or if a card is sent to the graveyard, you send the top 3 cards of your deck to the grave. So I'm going to go ahead and send a card from my deck to the grave, which I have exactly 5 left in the deck. I'm going to go ahead and send the copy of Felice, because Felice will special summon. We're going to shuffle up the deck, and once we shuffle up the deck, we're going to go ahead and use the effect to be able to basically go in and special summon out this card from the deck, and then send the last 3 to the graveyard with 1 card left in the deck. We only have 1 card left, but that's totally fine because we have so many different plays we can still go for with this particular setup, which is really nice, because now at this point we're going to go ahead and overlay both of these. You can make another copy of Minerva, you're not going to get any more mills, or you can leave these on the field to make a link summon, which is really cool, or even synchro summon, which is really cool with your copies of the Plague Spreader that's in the graveyard to be able to put an additional card back into the deck. Or you can use the copy of the Star Liege later. Totally up to you guys what you want to do. I'm going to go ahead and put the copy of Star Liege back on top of the deck, and then I'm going to go ahead and synchro with all of these on the field to make a copy of Baron de Fleur, which is really helpful just to make that card on our side of the field to give us an additional monster on the field, which is really nice. So you get these really insane plays and these really big setups, and then summon out both your copies of Judgment Dragon with this big field. This is really insane what you can actually do with just the Machine Dupe plus Card Troop combo, and it's absolutely insane. So let's go ahead and shuffle up the deck and see what we can do. And then during the next turn, if you didn't put this back on top of the deck and you just synchroed here, you would have drawn into the other copy of Judgment Dragon, and you could have thrown a 3rd copy of Judgment Dragon on the field, which is just absolutely insane that you can actually summon all 3 of them to your side of the field by pulling off that super simple combo. But let's go ahead and shuffle the deck and see what we can do for another combo in this deck, and how powerful Fairy Tale Snow is in Lightsworn. It's just absolutely insane how powerful that card is, and it's just super fun to be able to play. So let's go ahead and shuffle up the deck again. I'm going to go ahead and pile shuffle the deck. Since we went through so many cards, I'm going to go ahead and quickly pile shuffle the deck, because that was absolutely insane what you can do with that simple combo of Card Trooper plus Machine Dupe, because you can get that mill 12 and really get some insane plays. But what's really cool about this setup is if you don't draw into that combo, you do basically just play Lightsworn, which is fine because Lightsworn is still extremely good. It's one of the most powerful, in my opinion, decks that's ever been created, because it stood the test of time and it's just really good, because it was released all the way back in like 2007, and it's still good to this day and still occasionally tops, which is really cool. So let's go ahead and shuffle up the deck and see what we can do for our next test hand. So let's go ahead and draw into our 5 cards and see what we can do. So we're going to draw into a copy of Card Trooper, a copy of Raikou, Charge the Light Brigade, our copy of Felice, and another copy of Card Trooper. So it looks like we're normal summoning Card Trooper, but we can go ahead and use the effect of our Charge the Light Brigade, send the top 3 from our deck to the graveyard, which is going to be a copy of our Lumina, Wolf, and another copy of Lumina, which is going to get us a special summon of a Card Trooper, or a copy of our Wolf, to our side of the field. And we've already got a mill 6 with these 2 in our hand, which is really good. So at this point, now that we got the copy of Wolf on our side of the field, we do get a search from the deck, which I usually would have searched the copy of Lumina, but we did mill out both the ones that we have in the deck. I'm probably going to search out a copy of the Raiden, which is going to help us out a lot to be able to get that copy of Raiden on our side of the field, because we can actually synchro summon for our copy of Chaos Ruler, which is a good starting play because it's going to get 5 off the top of the deck, which is really nice, and get a little deeper into the build. So, normal summon out the copy of Raiden, use its effect to be able to send the top 2 of the deck to the graveyard, which is our other copy of Card Trooper. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and synchro these 2 together, and I'm going to make the copy of Chaos Ruler, which is a little bit better than making the copy of Minerva right off the bat, because this card actually gets 5, where Minerva only gets 3. So we're going to go ahead and use the effect to be able to look at the top 5 of the deck, and we get to grab a light monster or a dark monster, which I'm always going to grab the copy of Judgment Dragon, because it's just so good to grab that card. card. And we're already set up with at least 3 names in the graveyard, which is really, really cool, because then if we pass over to the opponent, they can actually go for some plays, but we're also going to be able to use the effect of our Judgment Dragon later on, which is really, really nice. But you can actually go in for Baron de Fleur with this particular hand, which is really cool, because we're just going to put the copy of Raikou back on top of the deck, and then summon out the copy of Plague Spreader, and then synchro these two together to be able to make the copy of our Baron de Fleur, which is always a really good setup right off the bat, because then you can use the effect of your copy of your Chaos Ruler if you want to, if you have the Light and Dark in the graveyard, which we don't, but you can later on go into the copy of our Judgment Dragon, which is really cool, and bring back the copy of the Chaos Ruler, which is really nice. But being able to end on Baron de Fleur is totally fine, because you at least have a negate on the field to be able to stop the opponent and be able to use Judgment Dragon on the following turn. So we're going to go ahead and pass over to the opponent, let them do what they need to do, and we're going to go ahead and draw for our turn, which, oh, surprise, we got a Raikou. We're going to go ahead and normal summon out the copy of our Card Trooper and be able to send the top 3 from our deck to the graveyard off the copy of Card Trooper, which is why I think this card is a really good tech card in Lightsworn to be able to set up with a copy of Garroth and our copy of our Trick Clown, which is really good to be able to get that card out on our side of the field, because at this point we do have the copy of Judgment Dragon that we can actually drop, which is live now, which is really, really, really good to be able to summon that card out to the field to be able to go in for game. But you can go ahead and link summon if you want to into some more cards, which is really nice because we have other monsters that you can actually summon if you want to, but your Card Trooper's already at 1900, and you're going to be able to board wipe the field and draw an additional card off the copy of Card Trooper if you want to. I usually don't, because I have the copy of Baron de Fleur, but it gives you an additional 3k to help you go in with your monsters that you already have on the field, which is really nice, besides the Trick Clown, which is sitting at 0-0. So you have some really good plays with this particular hand to go in for. If you don't draw into the copy of Machine Dupe, you still have some really good plays in this particular line. But let's go ahead and go into another one and see what we can do for another test hand. If we did decide to go ahead and destroy the entire board, we would be able to draw an additional card, which would be a copy of Malicious, which really wouldn't help all that much to be able to go in for the copy of Malicious, but you still had those really good plays on the field to be able to go in for more later. So let's go ahead and shuffle up the deck and see what we can do for another test hand, because this deck, as you guys can see, super consistent, super fun to be able to play, and just absolutely insane, because again, if you don't draw in a Machine Dupe plus Card Troop, you still have plays to go into, because we are playing Lightsworn, which was something that as I built this Troop Dupe Scoop deck, I wanted to play, because I went through Cyber Dragons building Troop Dupe Scoop. It worked, it was okay, it didn't do as insane as this deck. I went through Cyber Dark, which was kind of weird, but it worked to make your copy of Cyber Darkness Dragon. And then I finally settled on this one, and it worked really, really well, and it's worked really, really well ever since I built it, which is just absolutely insane. I'm really excited that Garland actually suggested this one, because it's super fun to be able to play. So let's go ahead and give the deck a quick little shuffle and see what we can do for our test hands. We're going to go ahead and draw into a copy of Malicious, Machine Duplication, hopefully get a Card Trooper, a copy of Raiden, Solar Recharge, and a copy of Charge of the Light Brigade. So I'm going to go ahead and right off the bat activate the copy of Charge of the Light Brigade, being able to mill the top 3 cards of the deck, hopefully not hitting a Card Trooper, and we didn't hit Card Trooper. Cool. So at this point I'm going to go ahead and add from deck to hand a copy of, say, where is it? Our copy of Lumina. I really want to get that copy of Lumina into my hand, and hopefully we can draw into our copy of Card Trooper, because if we can get some really, really, really good plays with that card. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and use the Raiden with the copy of Solar Recharge, and I'm going to hope that we get the copy of Card Trooper directly to our hand. So I'm going to go ahead and draw 2, and hopefully it's there, and it is. Okay, we got it. Cool. Now we got the play. See, sometimes you got to dig in the deck for it. Sometimes you really, really, really got to dig into the deck to be able to get that Card Trooper play. But when you do get a hand like this, it's absolutely insane. So we haven't even normal summoned yet, and we've already got the Card Trooper play, and we do have to mill 2 off the top of the deck too, which we hit a copy of Wolf, which is really, really good. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and normal summon out the copy of Card Troop, and we're going to be off to the races again. We're being able to go ahead and special summon out the copies of Card Trooper to the field, because now we're really, really talking, because we're going to be able to mill 12 off the top of the deck. That is really insane to be able to just go ahead and special summon out both of those card troopers. Now we're going to give the deck a quick little shuffle, and once we do, we have everything we need to get our plays really rolling, which we already kind of did, but being able to draw into that was just absolutely insane. So we're going to go ahead and use card trooper number 1, mill the top 3, which unfortunately we did hit a copy of Malicious. We're going to go ahead and mill 3 more, which is totally fine. We hit the copy of Minerva, which is going to mill an additional card, which is totally fine. And then mill 3 more for the final copy of Card Trooper, which we actually hit another copy of Wolf, which is really, really good. So we're going to go ahead and overlay both of these to be able to make a copy of Dante right off the bat, to be able to mill 3 more, which is going to get us an additional 3 cards in the graveyard, which is going to be a copy of Machine Dupe, Wolf, and a copy of our Judgment Dragon, which I think I saw us mill a copy of our Star Liege earlier, which we did. So we can banish that and grab the copy of Wolf out of the grave, or grab the copy of Judgment Dragon out of the graveyard, which is going to help us out a lot. And we do have 3 Wolves on the field now, which is just absolutely crazy. Like, if you guys have ever played Lightsworn, that's really insane. That's how you know your deck is working correctly, is when you summon out 3 copies of Wolf. So we're going to go ahead and make a copy of our Minerva. We're going to go ahead and mill 3 more off the top of the deck, and then draw a card for every Lightsworn that we actually hit, which we're going to go ahead and hit a copy of Felice and a copy of Star Liege, which is going to special summon. And we're going to get to draw an additional card, which is an additional Machine Dupe. Doesn't really matter. But at this point, we're going to go ahead and make a copy of our... Let's go ahead and make, actually, let's make Chaos Ruler. Let's go ahead and make Chaos Ruler now, because it's going to give us that additional card on the field to be able to look at the top 5 and then pick a light or a dark monster, which hopefully we're going to hit a Judgment Dragon, because we only have 8 cards left, and then we can summon all 3 Judgment Dragons to the field. Hopefully we hit it. And we didn't hit it. We haven't hit it yet. Okay. But we can pick a light or a dark monster, which I'm actually going to pick. Oh, it doesn't matter, because we're going to use a copy of Yugioh anyways. So I'm actually going to pick a copy of Lumina to be able to use. And then we're going to go ahead and use the effect of, say, we have 3 cards left in the graveyard. Did we hit Plague Spreader? I think we did. Let's go ahead and see if we actually hit Plague Spreader. So we have hit Plague Spreader. Yes, we did. We can actually put a card back on top of the deck, which is going to make it live anyways. So we're going to go ahead and put the copy of Plague Spreader on the field. And once we do, we have 4 cards exactly in our graveyard. So we're going to go ahead and use the Dante, the copy of Card Trooper, the Chaos Ruler, and the Plague Spreader to be able to go in. Actually, let's leave those. Wait a minute. Better play. Better play. So go ahead and leave those on the field right there. We're going to go ahead and put that on the field. Synchro summon right here for a Baron de Fleur, which this is actually going to go to the graveyard. This is going to get banished. We're going to go for Baron de Fleur. And then we're going to go ahead. That's the cool thing about Lightsworns, is you kind of got to look at your field and go, wait a minute, I want to make that play instead. We can actually bring this back to the field super easy by just banishing a light and a dark monster, which we do have a light and dark monster, which I'm just going to banish the white and the black dragon to be able to summon back this card to the field, which is going to give us 4 monsters on the field again, which we're going to go ahead and use all of these monsters on our side of the field to be able to go in for a copy of Chaos Dragon, while also having, or a copy of Skull Dread, while we also have the copy of Baron de Fleur. So now we're going to go ahead and use the copy of Skull Dread to be able to draw the last 4 cards of our deck and then put 3 back, which we already milled the other copy of Judgment Dragon. I actually missed that. Did we mill Judgment Dragon? Yeah, we did. Okay, so that's totally fine. But we still have some good plays, because we're just going to put 4 back. So we're going to go ahead and put that, the copy of this, and the copy of the Malicious back, because it's going to get us an additional monster. So we're going to go ahead and put all of these back on the top of the deck, which that's pretty much all we have anyways, to give us 3 more turns. We could activate the copy of Charge, but we're not going to get Search anyways, just to mill the entire deck. But now at this point, you can special summon out both your copies of your Judgment Dragon, and you have the copy of your Yugioh to be able to normal summon out your copy of Lila, use the effect of Lila, send the copy of our Raiden, special summon back the copy of Raiden, and then synchro summon these 2 to be able to summon out your copy of your Michael, which is going to get you an additional monster on the field to be able to banish. And you have this really awesome field all over again with Machine Dupe, or Card Troop Dupe Scoop, which is just really insane to be able to do with all of these cards. It's just insane what Machine Dupe plus Card Trooper can actually pull off still to this day in a Lightsworn deck. Like, you just went and went and went with this deck, and it doesn't stop once you get those plays really rolling. If you would have drawn into the other copy of Judgment Dragon, it's just absolutely absolutely insane. This would actually be banished. But what's really insane is you can still keep going if you want to, because you have Fairy Tale Snow. So you can just banish 7 cards from your graveyard that you don't need, like the spell cards, like your Charge, your copy of Solar Recharge, your copy of your other Solar Recharge, Machine Dupe, Foolish Burial, cards like Charge of the Light Brigade, and like a Machine Dupe. Is that 7? I think that's 7. Might be more than 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 right there that you can actually use to bring back your copy of Fairy Tale Snow. And it's really cool because it's actually not Foolish Burial, but it's actually a Book of Moon, which is really cool that you can get this absolutely insane feel by just adding, or basically being able to grab your copy of Card Trooper plus Machine Dupe, and you can be able to dig into the deck with Yugioh to be able to get those cards, which is really cool. So I think that's going to do it for this one, guys. To show you exactly how the deck works. If you guys would like to check out the deck profile, as always, with every single test hand, it is always down in the description down below. But this deck is really fun to be able to play. I'm really glad that Garland actually suggested this, because this deck is wild. This deck is fun to be able to play. You never know what you're going to get with the Lightsworn deck, with the hand. Sometimes you will have moments that you'll have a brick hand, but with this deck, with your copies of Card Troop, you basically have an additional Lightsworn in the deck, because Card Trooper basically feels like a Lightsworn monster, which is just really insane. And it's really, really cool. I hope in the future, maybe they'll make something that's a Machine Dupe target for Lightsworn. That'd be really cool. That actually worked like a Card Trooper. That would be absolutely busted, but it'd be really, really cool. You can also summon cards like your copy of the Psychic End Punisher with cards like your Minerva, which is kind of neat. But you have some really, really insane plays. Like, for example, just to show you guys really, really quickly, if you have like that Lumina that you have on the field, and I had those Judgment Dragons on the field, instead of going for Michael, you actually could have these on the field, discard a card for your copy of your Lumina, and then bring back Minerva from the graveyard, because this was in the graveyard when I went to the last hand, and summon out the Psychic End Punisher, which is really cool because we did pay a lot of life points in the deck to make an extremely powerful monster with this deck. So I think that's pretty much going to show it for this one, guys. This deck is super fun to be able to play. Thank you so much, Garland, for actually suggesting this one, because this deck was really, really wild. And again, if you guys would like to check out the deck profile, as always, is down in the description down below. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.